Hello, everyone. This is Reverend Dereca Blackmon, and I am so glad to be with you here today. Just know that wherever you are, we are, and the East Bay Church is with you. It's a powerful and important time for us to come together as people of faith. It has been such a challenging week, and challenge is an opportunity if we let it be. And so, my topic today is how to forgive yourself. And as we look out in the world and wonder how we're going to find a path to peace, it is so important that we start on that journey within. And so I want to talk to you about forgiveness today and what I like to call the 5 A's to forgiveness. And so I want to start with attention. Attention is such a powerful gift in our lives. It's an opportunity to really kind of tap in and tune in to what's going on, first and foremost with ourselves, because there's really nothing outside of us that doesn't exist inside of us. So when we start to fine tune that antenna, we start to actually practice not just that instinct to react, but that intuition to know deeply. There's something that happens that allows us to see things in a different dimension. I talked to you last week about being present and being present in my body, and how after years of education, both in the mind and in the spirit, and really being an emotionally in tune person, I realized that I wasn't as present in my body as I really could be, and that kind of attention would serve me. And so I just want to invite you, if it's useful for you, to actually start with attention, right? So let's start paying attention to, first and foremost, the way we talk to ourselves. There's this way that we have of being with ourselves sometimes. I call it the gremlin, that can be so harsh, so mean, in ways that we would never talk out loud or talk to anybody else. There's this way in which I've heard myself call myself stupid, and really think about, how wrong I am all the time, and how unprepared, and how complicit I am in anything, right? And there's this negative self talk that happens. And so, the beautiful gift about attention and really just noticing is that we come into these observations with a detachment. We're just paying attention to what's happening. We're looking at our unconscious patterns. Where are the places where we automatically, as people like to say, jump bad? Right? Where is that thing where something happens and our defenses go up immediately? And there's this way in which we respond to the thing and take it very personally. What are some of our false beliefs? Where are the places where we may think we're not good enough, we're not educated enough, we're not pretty enough, we're not disciplined enough, we're not fit enough, we're not enough, right? Those are false beliefs, and it's important that we listen sometimes to the things that we say about ourselves. And paying attention also to our emotions. When are we sad? And maybe, I know for me, I had a really hard time with grief for a very long time, and sadness. I didn't want to be sad. I really was comfortable with, funny, happy, mad, angry, right? Or, just focused. I could do those three. I'm just focused. I'm getting my work done. I'm productive. I'm excellent. All of those things. And I can party and have a good time, smile real big. And I was good with anger. Some of y'all know they call me the irreverent reverend, because I'm quick to jump out there with that spark, right? But that thing about sad, so much of that anger was running from sad, really just that feeling of grief. So pay attention when your emotions come up and how you treat those emotions. I've been reading the book Women, Food, God, which was just such a powerful, powerful experience for me. And it talked about emotional eating and the ways in which we eat when we're not hungry, right? Because an emotion comes up, a sense of loneliness or unworthiness, or it's impossible, nothing's ever going to change, and we self-soothe. And it can be with food or alcohol, or trying to control or fix other people, for my fellow codependents out there. So there's an opportunity again to just notice. And what's so important about this noticing is that we not do it with the harsh judgment, right? We sometimes judge each other harshly, and it's often because that's the way we treat ourselves. So as you're noticing these habits, these feelings, as you're noticing them, just pay attention. That's it. It took me a long time to get this one. I'm really only just getting it down entirely. I talked about this last time. It's just kind of like, oh, look at that. Look at that. Look at how I feel like, oh, I got to pick up the phone and gossip when this thing happens, right? Or, this is the time when I really want to check out and go on social media and be on my phone, right? There's things to pay attention to, but the power isn't just being present, being attentive, giving your attention without turning it over to that inner critic. Another really powerful thing that I've learned about attention is to actually put some love on it. So when I work with my wonderful, amazing therapist, and I really want to say that I'm a firm believer in spiritual beliefs and practices, and I am also a believer that God is in the therapist. So I just really want to encourage us, especially us folks of color. We haven't always been raised to think that therapy is okay, and especially some of our, folks who identify as men. There's just been this stigma of you shouldn't pay somebody to tell you about you. Well, I will testify that I have an amazing therapist, and we did this activity with my inner critic. And she asked me to imagine the critic, as we do many times with our family systems, as a part of me. So imagine this critic as a part of me. And we were finishing a session, and she said, okay, now put your critic to bed. Okay, tuck the critic in a bed. And I had this imagination, okay, I'm supposed to put the critic to bed. And she said, so as you put the critic to bed, what do you want to say to it? And, I teared up immediately. That's how you know it's good, when you tear up immediately. So I teared up immediately and I said, thank you. I know you're just trying to help me. I know you're just trying to protect me. And it's okay. Thank you. And that moment was such a powerful breakthrough for me, because it allowed me not to beat up on myself and beat up on my critic, not to criticize me for criticizing me. I began to have this different relationship with that little gremlin, and to appreciate that what's really going on here is we're trying to protect ourselves from pain and sadness. And that's okay. But just notice, pay attention. That's the first A, to when that's coming up for you. Now, the next A is affirmation, because in this philosophy, in New Thought, in metaphysics, in the science of mind, we really believe in the power of the truth. And so there is something about what you put into yourself impacts what you put out. It impacts what you think about yourself. So this week has been a really, really intense time of input into us around fear and violence and anger and hatred and judgment. And I know, like so many of you, I got caught right up in it. And I've been really proud of getting deeper into my meditation and mindfulness practices, waking up with my gratitude practice and my music that's spiritual. But one morning, a couple of days ago, I woke up and I did something that cost me. I went to social media before I did my meditation practice. Now, any of you who practice any kind of mindfulness, meditation, or gratitude practice already know where this is going. And so, again, I'm not going to beat myself up. I just noticed that when I did that, my day didn't exactly start out the way that I would have liked. Some of you who know me know I went to Facebook and I had a whole lot to say about a video that I saw of a woman who really was just kind of bragging about her participation in the Capitol. And I was really, really angry about the fact that she could just go free and talk about this crime that she committed. And so many of us have watched as Black people in this country have lost their lives for nothing. for so little, for playing with a toy gun in the park, for sleeping in their bed, for stopping to ask for help when their car broke down. So many things. And I felt that anger rise up in me, and I got on that Facebook and I just started posting all kind of profanity, and I asked folks to pray for me and all the things. And I'm grateful for some of you who prayed, because I could feel it. I could feel it immediately. And I think I was a little embarrassed, Here I am getting ready for my talk. And what's funny is I picked this topic, how to forgive yourself. And when I was getting ready about a week ago to start talking about it, I was thinking, well, what am I going to say? I didn't know what I wanted to say. And then everything happened. And I made this post and I was like, oh God, you are funny. So now I had something that I was going to need to forgive. So ultimately, I took the post down. And I want to be clear, I didn't take the post down because I was shaming my anger. I believe anger is a righteous and important spark for change. I took it down because that's not my call in the world, is just to spew from the place of my pain. It's all right. If one day I do that, don't get on me. Wherever you said that's not your call. Every day is a different day for you and for me, for all of us. And so I had something else that I wanted to say, and I'm glad that I had the whole of the experience, the being out of order in my morning, the angry rant, the realization, because I surely saw it and I went back, because it's never too late to take a breath, to pay attention, to put something into you, some music, some meditation, some mindfulness, some walk in nature, something that you create that reminds you that God is all there is. That's a really important thing. I love that expression that we say in our church affirmation, right? Nothing from without can touch the perfect life of God within me. And that is the message that I wanted to bring. I want to talk about another A, because as we affirm the truth, sometimes it gives us the strength to do something that can be really hard for some of us, which is to make amends. So we have attention. We're going to pay attention to what's going on. We have affirmation. We're going to put something into us that reminds us of what the truth is, right? We're going to put that first. But then there's amends. Because sometimes we think that affirmation means, I've never done anything wrong because there's no mistakes in God and I'm never wrong. And yeah, there's no spot where God is not. You don't have to condemn yourself, but that doesn't mean that you can't apologize when you know you haven't shown up in a way that honors the God in someone else. So I'll tell you a story. I had an experience with a mentor of mine where things had gotten really difficult. We were in a contentious place and I was really hurting. I had tied that hurt to some anger. And at the time, I was in the 12-step program of Al-Anon to really look at some history of codependency that had developed around people in my family with addiction. And so I had been going to Al-Anon, and my sponsor had been talking to me about making amends. So we decided that this would be a situation where I would practice that. And I was so nervous. So the assignment was that I had to write down all the things I needed to make amends for with this mentor. And I wrote and I wrote and I shared it with my sponsor. And then I came to the meeting with my mentor. And I pulled out the piece of paper and my little voice was shaking. And I just started reading off one by one the things that were my part. Now, I want to tell you, I had a whole other list in my head of things that were her part. And I was very sure and very clear, and I could have stood in a court of law and had her convicted, tried, and all of those things. But that's not what this moment was. This was the moment to own up to my part. And if you've ever been in a conflict with someone who wants to kind of just move past it without owning up to their part, you know that that can be hard. It can be hurtful. But here I was wanting this thing from her, right? Of her to acknowledge her part. But I didn't start there. I started with my part. And from the very first sentence of me admitting how I had harbored anger at her and I had tried to undermine her and I had gossiped at her and I had gotten her back for things, like all the stuff that was there, right? That I had tried to make myself important and so many things that were there on my side. Now, mind you, I wasn't beating myself up. I wasn't crying out of shame. What really started to happen was relief, release. Because here's the thing about forgiveness: if you actually can clean up what's on your side of the fence, then you're going to get to the fourth A, which is amazement. Because to my amazement, as I read my list, not her list, not what she needed to do differently, not what she needed to make amends or be accountable for, as I read my list, I could feel the weight just dropping off of me, because all of us have a part, right? It says it takes two to tango, right? Or the Bible says, you shall know the truth and the truth shall make you free. So I knew the truth was I had a part. And I'm just going to say, if you've been holding something on somebody else, forgiving yourself might be the key to move forward, because it's likely. Now, I'm not saying that in all situations. There are some of us, myself included, who have been survivors of childhood abuse, and you may have had some other situation. I don't mean to imply that you have deserved or created any kind of abuse that you've experienced in your life. But if you have experienced something where you want to own your part in it, then this type of amends might be useful for you, because I know for me, I entered into the fourth A of amazement. I could not believe it. And I'm going to tell you what, she never apologized for her part. She never even really thanked me for apologizing for my part, but I was so complete. When I got done with that list on the piece of paper, I didn't need anything else. Because, I talked last week about when you are in your space of unforgiveness with someone else, you are holding them in a prison in your mind, and your job gets to be prison guard. And who wants that job, right? That's not the job we want. And so I got to let it go, and I was free. And it was absolutely amazing to me that I could get myself free without ever needing anything from her. I'm going to tell you, many of us think we need a resolution. We need, closure on something. Sometimes you might, but sometimes you can give your own self closure by doing the forgiveness of yourself. So the last thing that I want to talk about is appreciation, right? We've talked about attention, the importance of affirmation, the importance of amends when you need to do that, the amazement that happens. But we want this amazement not to be a one-time thing. We want this to be an intuitive, innate process. This should be our forgiving ourselves needs to be our go-to. I'm going to argue that it might be one of the most important things that we need to do, especially now, in a world where so much is painful all around us. I love Ricky Byers in Om Shanti says, when there is peace in my mind, there will be peace in the earth, right? So let's work on that thing which we can control, because we can't control what's happening on that television. We don't know what's happening over there. We can't control what people are posting on social media. We have to be in control of the one place that we can absolutely make the most difference. And so this appreciation for ourselves in all the little and large ways that we show up on our own behalf, that appreciation is a gift that you can give to yourself every single morning. When you wake up and do your gratitude practice, be grateful for you. Right? Let go of whatever it is yesterday, last week, last month, with that time when you was 8 years old and you broke whatever you're holding on to. The stories maybe that somebody told you, the lies that somebody told you about who you are. Have you forgiven yourself and maybe even them for whatever thing you made up about that? Sometimes, our parents will teach us something and we'll think it's true about us. I know I heard I was lazy, and I internalized that. I became like this chronic procrastinator. I'm late making this video, and I could beat myself up for that, or I could notice that sometimes I put things off, right? And I could affirm that there is no time and space in God. Y'all know I love Gay Hendricks. He has something called Einstein time. He said, if you stop focusing and being so worried about time all the time, you'll have more time than you imagine, because it's that anxiety, that tensing up, actually, that makes us so frenzied and less productive. Now you drop something, now you lost something. And so I notice that sometimes I'm late with things, and I affirm that there's no time and space in God, and that I am a perfect child of God, and all of those things. I make amends. I really will apologize when I need to take responsibility for how my tardiness can impact somebody else. I'm amazed that Einstein time is a real thing. That when I actually just let go and let God and just trust that it's all going to work out, it really does always work out. Like my spiritual best friend forever, my SBFF Karen Fry says, this stuff really works, TSRW. And so I'm amazed at how well it works, and I have such a deep appreciation for this faith, for this practice, for the power of our word, the power of our mind, our own power to change our thinking and change our life. So I just invite you to love yourself, forgive yourself, let go of anything that doesn't serve you, especially in our world today. I want to say a special note to to white folks in this moment, because there's a whole conversation about race going on, and I talk to a lot of people who feel really stuck around what is their role around racism. And I'm going to tell you that not everybody's going to agree with me. You have to forgive yourself. You have to forgive yourself for whatever way you didn't know it was this bad, or you didn't think, or you didn't pay attention, or all of those things, because there is this paralysis of shame, this paralysis of analysis that's just got us locked up so much, right? Whatever kind of identity you're carrying shame around, that's not helping anybody, right? And then we get so small and we're like, well, tell me what I need to do. That's over, it's a burden for a lot of people to feel like they have to explain to you how to not oppress them. Instead, right? Pay attention all the time to what's happening. Actually speak up and say the truth about what you know to be true about race and identity and love and peace in this world. Make amends where you have participated, because I'm going to tell you, we all have participated in some kind of oppression of people who are different than us. So where you know you've done something, go and make amends. Now, don't go and say, oh, I'm so sorry, will you forgive me? Because now you're putting something on the other person again, that they got to take care of your emotions. But just where you need to, say what you need to say and leave it at that. But watch with amazement when you commit yourself to this dismantling of institutional racism, when you start to use these principles to rethink the systems in our society. Everybody's so mad about abolish the police, but aren't we peace-loving people? What if we imagine what peace officers might be in our community? Right? That's what people of faith should be about, the business of doing. What does an inclusive government or corporation or school, whatever you do, you can find a way to dedicate yourself to do the work of building a more inclusive world. And I just appreciate all of you, wherever you are, whatever identity you are, because we've all got work to do, and we can do it together. And it starts with forgiving and loving ourselves. Thank you.